Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. We have another of those Riyadh bonanzas at the weekend. That's the weekend coming up. That'll be the 12th of October. And one of the fights, one of the best fights on what is a very stacked card, a very good card, is the rematch between FRAZER Clarke and FABIO WARDLEY. Now, in case you weren't aware, and why weren't you? You should have been, because it was a brilliant fight. Earlier this year, back in March, Clarke and Wardley fought to a split draw. The British and Commonwealth, and I think one of the WBO, might have been the European WBO thing, which isn't the real European title, but gets you a ranking. That was on the line as well. British and Commonwealth are the important belts, though. The champion, British champ, was Wardley, and Clarke came in as a former Olympic bronze medalist. So, you know, it was a good old tear-up. Clarke was on the floor in the 5th round. I think he had a point off in the 7th or 8th as well. And it was the scores were close. I think it was 114, 113, 115, 113, or 150, 112, something like that. And then a draw at 113, 113. Had he not had the points taken off him, Clarke would have won. Well, had he not suffered the knockdown and had a point taken off, he would have won. And he showed a lot, I think, Clarke did, in that fight. He came in with 8 wins, no draws, no defeats, and 6 KOs. But he never faced anyone, never faced. His previous fight was against Dave Allen, of all people. And then he fought, I think he went 10 rounds with Marius Vac, previous fight. But he really hadn't fought anyone of any note. And Wardley was undefeated in 17, heavy hitter, 16 KOs out of 17 wins, and he faced by far the better opposition, Wardley. He stopped the undefeated David Adelaide. That was in his previous fight at the back end of last year, probably about a year ago now. He'd beaten Nathan Gorman. He stopped him for the British title in 3 rounds. And that was after Gorman was looking pretty good in those first 2 rounds, and then Wardley suddenly exploded. Wardley is the type of fighter, if he's clipped, he suddenly explodes. You know, he's got that genuine fighting instinct in him. He comes from a white-collar background. And he hadn't, I mean, he's fought some reasonable domestic level fighters, like he did Nick Webbing around. But to be honest with you, you know, it's more, I mean, he's 29 years old, so he's probably as good as he's going to get. He is a very good domestic level fighter. 6'5", so he's a big lad. Usually comes in about 240, 243 or something like that. Around about that, you know, early 240s. And does hit hard, and it does have a lot of spitefulness in his work. I think he was managed by Dillian White, or he was a sparring partner with White. And then he turned over, and he's already picked up the, you know, that Commonwealth and British title. The Commonwealth title is not on the line on Saturday. It's only the British title. So I don't know what's happened to that. Maybe it's become vacant, or maybe it's, I don't think it would have been, they would definitely have sanctioned this rematch, definitely, the Commonwealth Boxing Council. But yeah, what we've got is we've got this one guy who's faced far better opposition and has got more professional experience in Wardley. 18 fights, you know, 17 wins, 1 draw. And then we've got the guy who's had the better amateur pedigree, bronze medal at the Olympics, but has only got 9 fights, 8-0 and 1. And that's Clarke. Clarke is I think he's an inch taller at 6'6", and he probably comes in about 20 pounds heavier than Wardley. And you could see the schooling. Once he got, even though he got floored in the 5th, and, you know, it was a tough fight for both guys. Wardley was smashed up. He's got this, the bridge of his nose, there's a lot of scar tissue there, and it tends to open up and start bleeding. But Wardley definitely let Clarke know that he'd been in a fight too. I mean, this was a great heavyweight fight, really great British title fight at heavyweight. Definitely in the tradition of the old, you know, R. Henry, you know, Henry Cooper, and, you know, all that lot from the 60s. Bruce Woodcock and or Budner came later on, didn't he? But, you know, there was in the 60s some great heavyweight title fights that would sell out like the Wembley Arena. Thousands of people would turn up to see them. So, yeah, I mean, it's great to see, you know, such a collision, two great rivals at domestic level, at heavyweight level. I personally don't think either of them can go beyond European level. I haven't seen enough to suggest that. But even with his schooling, even with his amateur pedigree and those nice skills that Frazer Clarke has got, I don't think he's going to quite get to the highest level, you know. But he won't be far off it. I mean, he's a good European level fighter. Like I said, he's in the 260, so he is a big lad, 6'6". And I think the skills clawed back the deficit of losing a point and being floored in the first fight with Wardley. Wardley was more pot shotting. He explodes. He fights in explosive bursts, Wardley. We saw that against Adelaide. There was bad blood between Wardley and Adelaide, but when Wardley got Adelaide hurt, he floored him. And then when Adelaide got up, Wardley was all over him like sauce over spaghetti. And he's got a nastiness about him which kind of makes up for any deficiencies in his technical boxing. I think, I mean, they're both orthodox stance. I think, you know, who came through that 12 rounds with feeling better about it, having learned more. I think that as questions were asked on both sides, I think Frazer Clarke proved that he can do 12 hard rounds as a pro. That he is not just an amateur who happens to be a big lad and is making a few quid as a professional heavyweight. God knows there's money to be made in the heavyweight division. But I think that he actually showed that he's got something about him. He's got some inner metal. To get up from the knockdown was good, and to go back to his boxing and actually, you know, bust up Wardley as well and give Wardley plenty to think about. That was impressive. From Wardley's point of view, the fact that he was busted up, but kept on fighting. And here's the most important thing. Both guys kept on trying to win. Neither of them was throwing don't hurt me punches, don't hit me. They were both trying to win right until the last. The one at the end of the fight who looked more exhausted was Frazer Clarke. If you remember, he sort of sat on the top rope. The moment that final bell went, Frazer sat down on, not the top rope, sorry, the bottom rope. He'd have to be very tall to sit on the top rope. But on the bottom rope, he sort of hung down, could barely get up. Whereas Wardley looked, fresh isn't the word, but fresher is probably stretching it. But he looked like he could have done another 3 rounds. And I wonder if Clarke will come in just a little bit lighter next time out, having done the 12, you know, maybe a 255 instead of, I think it was, it's in the 260s last time, 266, 268 maybe, was it? Oh, no, probably not that heavy. But come down to, you know, 255, 258, that might give him slightly more stamina, even if it's a psychological thing. Whereas Wardley, he 6'5", 29 years of age, he's got that lean young man's look about him, even when he's in the 240s. Now, I think in terms of one-punch wallop, I think Wardley hits harder. I think in the better combinations probably come from Clarke in the sense that they're better schooled combinations, but don't think that Wardley is just a pot shotter. He can throw combinations, nasty combinations. The difference is he tends to sort of walk in the front door, go straight at you, whereas Clarke is a little bit more giving you angles and trying to keep you unbalanced and offset. And he doesn't try. I think Wardley is more prone to trying to knock you out, whether it's with a single punch or a combination. With Clarke, he's quite content to just pop, 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 chip away, chip away, chip away, drain you, and then bang, 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 it's all over. I mean, even Dave Allen retired after, what was it, 6 rounds, was it? 5, 6 rounds? I can't remember. But that was a 10-rounder, and Dave Allen just opted out. But, you know, Frazer, and against Marius Vac, you know, he didn't seem fussed about stopping Vac. You know, he wanted to get the rounds in. Now that he's done the 12, I think his confidence will be greater probably than it was going into the first fight. Wardley doesn't strike me as someone who lacks confidence at all, didn't previously. But again, he's fought the better men, you know. So I think this is a very difficult fight to predict. So, and like all good fights, I mean, all the best fights, the ones that we look forward to the most, are the ones that we're not sure who's going to win. Based on the first fight, and based on the fact that neither man has fought since, and that was 6.5 months ago, something like that. This is really going to be the next round will be the 13th round of one big bit of work, if you know what I mean. 2 fights. This is part 2. I just get the feeling that Wardley might have a bit too much power for Clarke. And I can certainly see Clarke outboxing Wardley as he did for chunks of the first fight. And maybe, again, busting him up, you know, maybe even flooring him, you know. But I just feel that Wardley has that tenacity, has that nastiness, that spitefulness, that probably he might have to come from behind to do it, but I think he will actually catch Frazer, as he did in the first fight, put him down, and then I think this time it'll stop him. I'm going for Wardley to stop Frazer in about 8 rounds. Yeah. Could I be wrong? Of course I could. Frazer could get him out there. He could completely outbox him and put on a clinic. You never know. He's got good skills, Frazer has. And I think for chunks of the fight, that we'll be thinking, oh, you know, Frazer's got him here. But I just get the feeling Wardley, with that tenacious explosiveness, at some point will catch FRAZER CLARKE, floor him, and probably stop him, I think. So, yeah, I'll say the 8th round. We'll see. We'll see what happens. What do you think? Give me your opinions, please. Give me your predictions and tell me, don't just say, I think so-and-so will win. Say, why do you think they'll win? You know, I'm interested. I mean, I like, you know, reading other people's predictions, because then if I get it wrong and you get it wrong, at least I know I'm not alone, you know. All right. Anyway, thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. I always appreciate your time. Subscribe to the channel if you're new and hit the like button if you don't mind. And, of course, I'll give them a read, all your comments, and get back to you. Thank you very much, and bye for now.